will join us. We do have a quorum, which is always good. So if Kate, could you please, our board secretary, please call the roll.
Right, and if everybody who's not speaking could please go on mute, that would really help us out. There's some background noise here. Thank you. Todd Hobler?
He's here, I know.
Oh, but you're muted, Todd, but I see you.
I'm here. Do you hear that?
Yes, very well. Len Lenahan?
I'm here.
I am here. Carrie Phillips is expected. Jeffrey Stone?
Here.
Susan Swartz?
Here.
Denise Wilson?
Here.
Robert Two? Expected. So we have a quorum of 6.
Good. Thank you, Kate. I will begin by reading the mission statement. SUNY Erie Community College meets the needs of a diverse student body and contributes to regional economic vitality by providing high quality, flexible, affordable, and accessible educational programs committed to student success. Okay, so welcome everyone. Thanks for being here this morning. We're going to start today off with a presentation about our Northland Workforce Training Center by Adeem Sagai, and I believe she's here. So Adeem, would you like to take the floor?
Sure. Len, let me just start off. When I got to SUNY Erie, I had heard some issues at Northland. I myself have been there twice, and I just want to say before Adiem starts her presentation, between her and Provost Doug, our provost, they have turned Northland into an asset versus a negative. And so Adiem's going to go through some great data. It's a great program, and she's going to end it with talking about the future. And I've been there twice already. I think I've been on 2 or 3 calls with Stephen Tucker, and I'm actually meeting him again tomorrow at 3 p.m. at Northland. So we are starting a great program, and it's much to do with what Adiem has done and how well respected she is by Northland and Stephen Tucker in particular, as well as Don. So there's great things to come from this, and I just wanted Adiem to give an overview of the current and then end the future. So with that, I'll turn it over to Adiem.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, President Luter.
Good morning.
And good morning, and thanks, board members, for inviting me this morning to share a little bit light about Northland workforce development. As you know, most of you, we've been at Northland since fall 2018, and we've been working hard and continue to work hard to ensure that our commitment to our students, our community, the Northland workforce, and our industry partners to make sure that it's a positive, strong, operational, and result-oriented commitment. As we just talked, the mission statement for the college, it realigns exactly perfectly into our mission of our college. So I'm happy to say that is our focus here. This morning, as President Luter had alluded, I wanted to spend a little time talking to you briefly with respect to where we were, where we are right now, in our current future with Northland. As you know, for the last 2 years or so, we had some challenges that we worked through, and I think a lot of the folks that are on the board in the committee right now were part of that process as well, to ensure that we worked through some of the challenges that we had, from HR to other challenges. Tracy and her team. We also had some great success with our first graduating class in summer 2019. As you know, that was also a big success for us. A lot of those students were also on the dean's list for the college, so that's a great success. I just want to point here that SUNY Erie is the only institution right now at Northland that has graduated 4 cohort of students, and not only that, but we are also we had placed many of our students in the job market. So I'm happy to say that. Certainly some great opportunities of continued improvement. So we don't, we're not done yet. There's a lot of work to be done. The leadership of Northland recognize that we do as well. And so more to come to improve our process at Northland. So let me just start out a little bit by giving you a brief quantitative data to just kind of give you a perspective. And just so that our numbers are kind of consistent, I'm going to do a comparison fall 18 to spring 20. I also did include data that talks about where we are with our enrollment for this semester, fall 2020. So it's there, but for comparison purposes, I'm going to stick to that fall 18, spring 20. And I'm not going to go into too many detail in here. This is just one of the ways that we've been tracking our enrollment, retention, and graduation and beyond system at with Northland. So as you can see, excuse me, as you can see, from fall 18 to spring 2020, we had about 106 new students go through the Northland program. And then, as I mentioned, fall 20, we have 58 new students that are at Northland right now. That gives us 164 new students that came through the Northland site. And then our returning retention, and I know Fabio could probably sort of correct the language here, but for sake of just consistency, from the fall 18 to spring 20, we were able to retain about 57% of our students. And let me just talk a little bit in that slide. As you see, our trend has been 73 to 74. You see we get a dip in that from fall 19 to spring 20, 63% there. And the explanation for that is really, were challenged with instructional issue at that time, where we had to make changes in the middle of the semester of bringing a different faculty. The college also in fall 19 did invest to bring in a full-time faculty, which was able to help us address that. But as you can see, we did lose students, and I do believe fundamentally, and I think Doug would agree with this, is that instruction is the center of what we do. And when there's issue with instruction, our students do respond greatly. So they did walk out. So we lost about 13 students between fall 19 and spring 20. And so that brings us to our 80%, and one might think, okay, so what happened? They got 63, and then we have 80%. And our 80% is due to our new format that we piloted in spring 20. It's the way we are offering our courses. We're doing a 7.5 within 15-week semester, and I'll explain to that a little bit in a different slide. But just to give you the perspective, those are the students that you see with that 80%. So that is our retention, and we are hoping, because we have changed the format of our course delivery, that we will see even higher retention with our students. And I'll talk also some of the changes that we did to the curriculum that I think it's also going to play a role in getting a greater retention. And then the third piece rather, is our graduation rate. So our overall graduation rate is 45% from fall to summer 20, and I'll explain that summer 20, that's the students that started in that 7.5 spring 20, who also continue into the summer. That's another pilot that we tested to see that we didn't want to give those students a break because we didn't want to lose them. They started in spring, and we wanted to see how we could fast track these students to be able to finish in the summer semester, and they were very successful. So as you can see, if you go out semester to semester, in terms of our graduation rate, we see 73, and then we get a dip again in 53 there. We did also have some issues with those students who couldn't continue. There was a lot of social issues with the students that were not able to continue. You see that 53 there. And then we go down to 40%, and that 40% is that these are the students. So remember, these are the fall 19 students who we had instruction during that semester, who didn't persist greatly to spring 20, but then the ones who did persist to spring 20, then we see them challenged with COVID-19. So those are the students that we also lost, and we were not able to graduate them. Now, a lot of those students do have incomplete. We are trying very hard to get in touch with those students, as well as the Northland team is also assisting us to see how we could help them finish the courses because of COVID-19. We did get incomplete due to the fact that we could not have them in the lab. So that's where we are with our enrollment. And like I said, fall 20 looks really good. We did bring new students, 58, with our continued 14. That's a 70%. And these are also the students who were impacted by COVID-19. So when we look at it, we were able to bring those students back to complete. And our goal is to graduate at least 80% of those students for the after the fall semester.
Before Adium turns to the next slide, I just do want to mention you're seeing some amazing retention in graduation. This is a one-year certificate program. So when Doug and Fabio talk about retention and persistence in graduation, the way SUNY defines that, it's a cohort of first-time, full-time for a 2-year program. This is only a 1-year certificate. So the numbers are high, and even if it were a 2-year program, which is in the future, it's tremendous success. And focusing on the 58 new students, when I go through the enrollment report later in the board meeting, this is a shining star for SUNY Erie. I gave a lot of accolades to Adium and Doug, but it's the faculty, it's the support staff, and it's Northland. So it's not just a SUNY Erie program. There's a lot of moving parts that makes this program so successful.
Any questions with regards to the numbers? Because I know I put a lot of information there. Any questions on the slide? Okay, excellent. Thank you. And so that brings us to our job placement. We graduated, I said, like I mentioned, 48 students from fall 18 to spring 20. 26 of them are placed. That gives us to 54% job placement. And when we compare it to, and particularly the ENT certificate program, mechatronic at Northland is one of our highest. We do have 2 other programs that are at that same percentage, but certainly with Northland, we do see a high end of it. As you could also see, our students are making decent salary. They're working in one of the top companies in Western New York, Tesla and others. And these individuals are doing really well. We do stay in touch with them. They give us a lot of feedback. We're also using these industries to also be part of our advisory board in our mechatronic, which will allow us to continue to revise our curriculum, making sure that we are meeting the industry need and making sure that our students are competent to be able to work and do the job well. So we're very excited about that. One of the things to point out at Northland, I think it was this semester, we do have some data for our students that graduated this summer. There is a staffing agency that Northland is working with, and the staffing agency is Remedy. And the unique thing about Remedy is that they focus on manufacturing industry. So the idea here is to make sure that our students are being connected with the right industry and making sure that they're getting placed. So that's a huge investment. The Remedy is not only there to assist our graduate, but also to assist our students that are there who may need to work while going to school. So I think that is also going to help us a lot with some of the issues that our students face to be able to stay in that program. So I'm very excited about them participating with Northland. So that's a new partnership with Northland. Continuing education.
Just really quick, Adium.
Sure.
May I interrupt? I'm sorry.
Sure, please.
Regarding you said you have 26 place jobs. Where are the other graduates? What are they doing?
So the next slide, the below comment is 6 of them are finishing they're continuing their education. That's 13%. The majority of them are SUNY Erie, and particularly in the computer repair program, and then we have 2 at UB, one in a very different direction. And the other students are either working outside the field, and that's something that Northland is continuing to follow. Prior to Remedy, Goodwill Industry was the partner, so that's something that we have to work through to see where the data is, so they're in that transition mode. I'm also working with Katie Marshall with our career services to have a better sort of connection with that to make sure that we are tracking our students better. We did have some coding issue here with our students, so that's something that Katie and I will work to make sure that we're coding and following our students and making sure that they're receiving the survey.
Okay.
So
I
to get
am-
an understanding as to where
Can I jump into and say first, thank you for all your hard work. It looks like the results are going in the right direction. Thank you for that. I'm just curious as to how we are tracking our graduates. How you say we're keeping in touch with them, but what are we doing to connect with them and track where they are and how they're progressing after their time?
Thank you for that question. That's the part where I'm going to work with Katie Marshall to make
Okay.
sure that we have a better system, or better yet, really implement our own system with those students. Part of it was because of coding of those students. So even when we were looking to get some data for this presentation, there were some coding issues. So I would have to work with Katie and Fabio to make sure that we're coding them correctly, making sure that we're following them with our process, because we do have a very robust process from Career Services at SUNY Erie that we need to make sure that we implement. The second part.
That's kind of what I'm getting to. You know, what is the process? You don't have to tell me now, but that would be an interesting part of the next presentation.
Kate, yeah, what I just took the words right out of my mouth. We'll schedule, have Katie Marshall
Great.
do a presentation, because it's more than just this program.
Right.
Every graduate is tracked. So she's got extensive amount of data, but behind the data, what are we doing versus just recording information? And to audience point about the numbers, she was working on an analysis of how successful the students in this program are versus the other programs within her division, the certificates, to see if we're more successful, which we are, but we noticed that Megatronics at North only had 2 students, and I'm like, wait, what? That doesn't make sense, because we coded. This is a separate coding. So we're working on how to report the data better, but I will make sure Katie does a brief presentation at the next meeting.
Yeah, just in brief, this is Doug. I'll just chime in. We have a standard 6-month survey of graduates, 6 months post-graduation across all programs. And that's what Katie will probably begin with.
Good morning. This is Jeff Stone. Dean, thank you for being here. I had the privilege of going over to Northland about a year ago, I'd say, and attending a breakfast reception there. It was very, very impressive to see what was going on and to tour that extraordinary facility over there on the east side. My question has to do with, given you have a relatively modest number of students, but increasing, and that's great, and you have a pretty good retention rate, given those folks who do drop out or who go in a different direction, given that it's a fairly small number that you're dealing with, any interventions in place where you're able to actually meet with those students and make sure that whatever is dropping them out of the program, heading them in a different direction, whatever it is something that might be able to be remedied, or we could counsel them back into the program? Is there kind of intervention like that, given that you're working with a small universe of students who are leaving the program, to maybe increase even further the retention rate?
Absolutely. That's a great question. That's one of the things that we talked about in our biweekly call with Northland yesterday. We have a pool, unfortunately, we have a pool of students who dropped out for various reasons at the time. A lot of it tends to be some social issue or some health issues that our students are struggling with and just cannot really work through it. And so one of the initiatives that we are working on now is that we have about, I want to say about 36 students or so that we lost within the time that we started. So we are going to reach out to the students. They do, Northland, as well as us, we do have a dedicated support staff from SUNY Erie that tracks the students. So we do have a data as to what happened at the time that they dropped. But I think your point is well taken in terms of what are we going to do to bring those students back either into the mechatronic program or to our other certificate program or to our even 2-year program, because sometimes the career or the interest is not a fit for the students. So there were some of that too. They came in and said, wait a minute, this is not really what I thought this would be, and this is not what I want. So I think we have that. The work to be done right now, though, is to really discern exactly what happened and how do we reach those students so that we can get them back. So that's a project initiative, and I'll update on that as soon as we get that in works. But absolutely, that's a tool that we're working with.
And Jeff, to your point, we were just on a conference call yesterday with SUNY, with ADIM, John Sliz, our Workforce Development Director, now retired, and Stephen Tucker, and somebody, the head of the Buffalo Manufacturing Council, on looking at an apprenticeship program, but more importantly, a pre-apprenticeship program, because I said something that's very critical. A lot of students get in programs and don't realize what that program really is, and they drop out because it's not what they thought. So the pre-apprenticeship, what John Sliz remarked was, Ford has a program that talks people through as a pre-apprentice where they can go at Ford, and then they connect them to that area. So again, we had a call just yesterday afternoon, and there are funds available from SUNY for the apprenticeship program. So we're working on that as we speak.
Okay. Are there any other questions or comments? Thanks so much for your presentation. All of us here at the school are.
She just has, Audie has a few more quick slides.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. Okay, next
Proceed.
slide. I promise I'll go fast. I think demographic information, again, I wanted to just highlight some key points here. Just if I could go through our female part of, as you all know, in terms of the goal and mission of Northland Workforce Development is really to serve the community and create more access for very diverse students. And so I want to talk to a little bit through some of that as we are right now. From fall 18 was our highest in female participation, being at
Meeting. Can I call you about an hour?
being 32%, and our lowest in spring 20 being 4%. That is a huge concern for us. That's also a concern for the Northland workforce. They are doing different initiatives, as well as our SUNY Erie, myself and our team is working on to try to find ways to increase the gap that we see between the gender participation. So we're working very hard to increase that, and I could talk to it a little bit. I just want to be cognizant to the time. In terms of age, as you can see, fall 18, the age really bracket from 18 to 39 seems to be about the 78% of our student body that we're getting. But when you look at fall 2020, you see that 18 to 39 is even higher, 83. Specifically, that 18 to 24 age bracket is increasing in fall 2020. And there's some effort that Northland Workforce, the enrollment team is doing and reaching to different high schools that I believe is also supporting that number to get a higher increase of that 18-24 group population in there. Real quick, in terms of the persons of color participating, as you can see, we see a huge percentage fall 18, spring 19, within the 80s, high 80s for the most part, including in fall 19, and then we see a huge drop, to about 50%. And a couple of things there. One, the unknown becomes even greater in spring 20, that we see a higher percentage of unknown versus fall 18, for example. So that's something that we have to look to see why we have so many unknown. But it is something that also Northland as well as SUNY is concerned because we want to make sure that we have equal equity to make sure that we are serving the Western New York population. And like I said, part of the mission and goal of Northland as well as SUNY Erie is to really create access to our students and meeting them in the community where they are. So again, we're working hard to do that. One of the things that I know Northland did over the summer is work with the Buffalo Public School and the mayor office to really host the summer youth program at Northland. They were very successful. They did it virtually, and the goal there is that to really impact fall 2021 by recruiting students from the Buffalo Public School through the summer youth program. So these students we're doing a virtual sort of career exploration. Our mechatronic program was part of that, is really to engage them into the field. The second thing, I know Northland, and we are also going to be part of that in that partnership, is to work with the faith-based community and other community organizations to really create awareness about our mechatronic program, also about our other engineering technology program. They did host a couple of events at Northland where our engineering technology program actually had a presentation there with all of our 16 programs were at Northland presenting their own program. So the goal here is really to create awareness. The goal is here to really create an opportunity to serve our diverse population in Western New York. So we do recognize it. We do see this as an opportunity to work on that. The last thing I want to say on this is that one of the things that we're seeing is also impacting our diversity is that we are working in partners with industry for the partners to send their workforce. They do have a workforce that they want to train in mechatronic. They are working with us to help us with our enrollment. But as you know, the workforce is not as diverse. So that is also impacting the way our student composite look because they are enrolling students within the workforce. So we have some work to do and well recognized. I know we're going to work hard to ensure that we create that opportunity for all students in Western New York.
Adium, this is Denise. Thank you so much for that. If we can just go back just to that previous slide. First of all, I am just so thrilled that you are completely on top of it, especially focusing on women and that age group between 18 and 14. I think we have a huge opportunity, as you are aware, because of COVID, many students, especially high school level, first year college, were completely displaced, not being able to meet with guidance counselors, not being able to, just get a grasp on, selecting their college or what have you. And so I know that you said Northland and BPS are working, but I'm wondering if Paula could help us promote this project a little bit more, especially to that demographic. So yeah, there's probably, I mean, of course, I probably have an idea or two, but I'm sure Paula would know way more than me. The other thing that I wanted to ask is for the Megatronics program, we have a capacity limit or max of 100. Is that correct?
Right now, because we're changing the format and the way we deliver our courses, we have more, right? So we started only with two cohort in fall. We're able to do 3 cohort right now. We have implemented Friday, Saturday schedule where students could just come in Friday and Saturday and be done. So we are creating more opportunities to better utilize the amount of the number of start that we have. So our goal is to even have greater start. So as you can see, spring 20, we have 58 students versus fall 18, only 22. So absolutely, because of the way we have formulated the 7.5, that's allowing us to have more opportunity to start within that program.
Okay. And then also, just to Jeff's point earlier, when I'm looking at these trends, in my world, we call them the social determinants of health, but this can also be the social determinants of education, right? Do we have one person just dedicated to those wraparound type services and issues?
Say that last one again.
One person dedicated to service.
Right. So Northland has that service where they have a whole career coaches that support the students, and then they have enrollment team as well. So they have a very extensive resource. But we also at SUNY Erie, we also have a dedicated person that's helping us just to track and work with the students, track attendance, and track academic success is an important one. So tutoring, in the next slide, you'll see that we have all these different services that we offer from our college, but Northland does have extensive personnel to support and really make sure that the students are getting all the support they need.
Okay, so then my last question is, and thank you for that. The point person at SUNY Erie works with the staff at Northland to have a communication line as far as the students. So let's say, I'm a student, the person at SUNY Erie is calling, hey, do you know about Denise? Have you heard about, any issues that Denise is having with with a contact at Northland? Is that how it works?
Absolutely. We have
Okay.
a bi-weekly call that we do, but weekly, our person from SUNY Erie sends out information to the coaches. They're following up, we're following up. And then we and that bi-weekly call that all of us are part of it, including the chair of the department. And we go through student by student, course by course. It's tedious, but we go through it and making sure that everyone is on the same page to make sure that the student is supported. Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you so much. This is amazing.
You're welcome. Real quick, teaching and learning is an important piece for us, as I mentioned earlier. That is what we do as a college, program and curriculum revision. So one of the things that we did was that from fall 18, we did do a revision to our program based up on industry need. And based up on that, we really scaled down in terms of the focus of the program and made it even much robust and much focused. So that took place in fall 19. We got that moved forward. And then, like I said earlier, we created a 7.5-week format within 15-week semester. We piloted in spring 20. That is what you saw in terms of our prematurely, but 80% retention and graduation rate. So we're very excited about that opportunity. Again, the 7.5 speaks to a lot of the challenges I believe Jeff mentioned earlier as to what happened to these students. Part of what we heard a lot was that they were overwhelmed. 4 classes, family, working full-time is overwhelming. But we thought, okay, if we did 2 classes, you focus on 2 of your courses, your first 7.5, then you get done with that, you get a grade for that, then you start your other 7.5. That has helped manage this better. It's been very great for our faculty as well, because our faculty are focusing on 2 courses at a time. So the teaching is depth. Now, mind you, it is a lot of work, and we had to be very clear with our students that it is a focus, a lot of information at once, but you're only focusing on 2 classes at a time. So we do see, as you saw, great success in that, and it also helps us to create more opportunity for new student enrollment. Faculty and staff, as you know, in order for us to do this successfully, we have to continue to develop our faculty as well as our staff. So one of the things I know, for Kate Masiello, I believe you asked about this as to the sponsor workshop that was done. That was the cultural competency and student success strategy. That was the workshop in fall 18. It's my understanding that a great number of our faculty and staff participated at that time. We are working with Northland to schedule one in spring 2021. So
We would like to know the number of faculty that had gone through that, please, the next, at some point. All along the way, what happened in fall and what's going to happen in spring.
So for the fall 18, I was not able to, I wasn't here, so I wasn't able to get any documented. It was based up on what I got, received information verbally from folks that attended. Northland does not have the signing sheet, unfortunately, but I certainly will have data for you once we go for that spring 2021. A lot of, just to put it in perspective, a lot of the faculty, particularly that were teaching during that time, they no longer are with our college. So I think they're not here. Part of the issue was that, in a sense. But we do faculty in service at the beginning of every semester with our faculty to do teaching strategy, to ensure that our students are highly engaged. Again, we want to make sure that our students are engaged in this process.
And that in service is required?
Yes, we have been requiring all the people that teach at Northland to participate. And our faculty, I gotta say, our faculty have been great in doing that. In the in-service, we always invite the Northland team to be able to talk about the mission and vision so that there is a rapport and relationship with the Northland staff, because that is also another key to make sure that our faculty are comfortable to go and talk with the staff and making sure that we're addressing any student or any administrative issues down at Northland.
Kate, Adiam and I discussed seeing if we could move the cultural competency and student success that program onto our campus. So it's not limited to just Northland. So we have a more widespread audience that's touching every facet of the college. So that's just discussed yesterday, but that's the plan.
Dean and President Jeff Stones, this is kind of an overview question. I'm not looking for a long answer here, but just to refresh my own recollection and everybody's on the call. Northland, I perceive it as a joint venture, largely funded by the state, certainly when it comes to the physical facility there. But I'm interested in sort of governance with the state and SUNY Erie both being involved and possibly other parties that I'm not recalling. How does this governance work? How big a role does the state play in dictating events over there at the center? And could you just talk about each party's role a little bit and how the governance arrangement actually works so we all understand how this is set up?
I will start and hopefully Adian can pick up, but there's a separate board of Northland. Stephen Tucker reports to that board, but there was a change. It was actually 100% funded by the state of New York. And there was a change late last spring, I believe, that Empire State Development was sort of put in charge of operating the facility, not in a direct role, but responsible for the fiscal operations. And I know Northland has to generate a profit. That's their model. You know, they have a role, but they also need to be self-sufficient. And that's Stephen Tucker's and the board at Northland's responsibility. But it was funded 100% by the state, and Empire State College right now is the chancellor, the president for Empire State, Jim Malatras, was given that charge of the Northland facility. And while he was the president of Empire State, he was also put in charge. State wants to replicate this facility in Syracuse. There was funds in the state budget to replicate it, and then ultimately replicate it in the capital region. So this is a model the state sees as very viable and providing a great service, but ultimately it's got to be self-sufficient. So Stephen Tucker is looking at SUNY Erie as a partner. We're looking, as I mentioned, with apprenticeship grants, bringing more funds in. We have a profit sharing model right now for that facility for Megatronics. My discussion with him tomorrow is we're hopefully going to entertain additional programs there, and maybe we can leverage some state dollars instead of doing a profit sharing, do something, get rental aid from the state of New York as part of our budget request. So we get away from profit sharing and go to a rental model, we can possibly leverage additional funds. So that's in discussion. We also talked about leveraging some capital for some facility improvements. So there's a lot of mix, but it's owned by the state of New York, but operated by a separate, I don't know for sure, but I would think a separate 501c3, Jeff.
And does SUNY Erie have any place on that board? And second question, what, if any, relationship do we have with Alfred State, who is also involved at Northland?
We do not have a seat on the board that I'm aware of. I printed out the material. I did look at it closely. I think the chair of the board is Dennis Elzenbeck. But it's a lot of private individuals and community individuals, but we are not on the board.
It might make sense to petition for that so that we have some voice so that they understand from a provider perspective what, the deal is. So that's my 2 cents.
It's on my list for 3 o'clock tomorrow with Stephen Tucker now.
With respect to Alfred, we do have a relationship with the coordinator that's assigned from Alfred. We do talk, we do share. We had a couple meetings, especially at the beginning, to really work through some logistic issues. They had similar concerns as we did, so we did do a couple meetings with them to ensure that we were all serving our students and we were addressing some of the logistic issues that all of us were facing at the time. Just briefly, Student Center Academic Support Services. Again, we want to ensure that our students at Northland are receiving the same type of support that our students at our campuses are receiving. This is an extension site that we tell our students. So we do have an ongoing student admission support that they get from Phil Struble and his team, financial aid from Jeff from his team, advisement we get as well. We have a dedicated person, like I mentioned, registration, tutoring, and work study. So our students at Northland are getting the same support as our students at each of the campuses. One of the things that we do a student new orientation every semester. We did one virtually this semester. It was very successful in that process. We do advisement where our chairs meet with students individually to do advisement with them. So every process that we do at the campus, we do everything we can to mimic that process at Northland as well. Office hours and so forth. I'm glad to say that Men of Merit was one of the programs that was part of the orientation, and I believe I got data yesterday about 4 of those students have applied and been accepted in the Men of Merit program as well. We get transportation support, tutoring. So again, the focus is really to make sure that our students are getting the support they need in order to be successful.
The only other thing that makes me think of the moms program, and maybe this, what the outreach is there to connect with that obvious problem we're having with having women enrolled. So I just thought.
Yep, absolutely. That's another one that we've been talking about officially. We'll bring that as well. Jason Perry's on our call as well to ensure that we are constantly supporting our students with any other need, but absolutely, that's a great one to bring in on board officially. Administrative support, again, really creating protocol and procedure with SUNY Erie to make sure that with Northland, to make sure that all of us are on the same page. I think, Denise, you mentioned about how do we do this with the team there, bi-weekly call that we have established that, and we continue to do that to make sure that all of us are on the same page. I mentioned earlier about our faculty. The college did dedicate a full-time faculty to this, which has been helping us greatly. We also had a new chair in the mechatronic program. So I think all of that is working to support what we're doing right now. I know we're pressed for time. What we're working on AOS mechatronic with really targeted timeline for fall 2021. And we did a survey. Our students do want to continue with us, but particularly with mechatronic. We also did a survey with the advisory board. So that is in the work right now. Other opportunity, as President Ruder mentioned earlier, mechatronic is just a stepping stone. We are really looking to do more at Northland as we see it an asset. Again, to use his word, mechanical engineering is in discussion right now with a target date of 2021 as a 2-year program. Again, we also are talking about 2 high demand program at Northland right now as well to be able to hopefully establish that. Again, we want to create access and be where our students are and to be able to open these different opportunities that we have. The last thing, again, a discussion about future collaboration with Empire State to see what program we have within the college that could transfer directly into Empire State College as they came on board, I believe, just 2 semesters ago. Any questions? I know I went through that real quick, but.
No, I don't have any questions. I just wanted to say, actually, I do have one question. What was the program that we had? We started with 2.
Yes, we had CNC that we stopped after spring 2020.
I'm sorry, what does that stand for, Audience?
Machining and tooling.
Okay.
All right.
But I just wanted to say, just thank you for your work here. I remember sitting with you at the scholarship event, and you said if they just give me a little time, and with that little time, you made such tremendous strides, as well as your team. So I just wanted to commend you on that work, and I look forward to what's to come with Northland.
Absolutely. Again, I want to emphasize our faculty, our support staff. We have a great team to really make this happen, and I'm very happy. And we have wonderful students who are doing wonderful things in the community to really represent SUNY area. And again, to go back to the mission of the college, we are here to serve the community and to serve the diverse community, and I think we are doing that. And more to come, more to come.
And Kate, you mentioned Alfred. They certainly have a role. They have 3 programs there. It should be our area. It should not be Alfred's. From my multiple conversations with community members, including SUNY trustee Lewin, she keeps on reminding me. She just reminded me earlier or late last week that we almost lost this program. We almost lost Northland. So we had some damage to be repaired, and now we're past that, and the future is bright. Stephen Tucker is reaching out to us now. Stephen Tucker, we had the check writing or signing ceremony out at the Vehicle Tech Training Center, West Her. They donated funds to repaint the Vehicle Tech Training Center, and we invited Stephen Tucker. My first meeting with him was, no, we're advanced manufacturing. We don't want to get into the Vehicle Tech Training Center or that type of program, auto tech program. And he reached out to us to come to that check signing, and he did a tour. And the next day he was connecting with us, looking for space at Northland to house a program, because Western has a fantastic model. They have a co-op model that has incredible success rates for our students. It's a co-op model where they're working and going to school at the same time. So he wants to replicate that. So we've turned the corner, and it's, Adium and Doug, but it's all the faculty and the support staff. It's a lot of people working in the same direction. This is a community asset, and we're part of the community. We need to be in this place. So it hurts me that Alfred is there, but if we can demonstrate success, we will certainly have a big role.
Thank you. And congratulations.
Right.
Abby, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Adam, again, I think Denise summed up our thoughts about the progress of that program that you're leading, and we're very appreciative of your presentation this morning, and we're so glad we've been able to, the college has been able to strengthen its relationship with Northland over the past 12 to 18 months. So we're moving in the right direction, and we thank you for your efforts, and please give everyone at the center our best wishes. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so we're gonna move forward with the consent agenda. It's rather brief, but we have some other items outside the committee structure as well. So we have 2 items on the consent agenda: the BOT minutes for August and the latest talent management agenda. On the BOT minutes, that speaks for itself. On the talent management agenda, anything that we need to know, Susan or Denise, anything that you want to take up there?
I have 2 questions. First, on the minutes, we did talk about the queue for counseling, and the goal is to have no more than 100 applications in the queue at any time for enrollment. I'm just wondering where we are. That was the page 11 of the minutes. Okay.
That is part of my enrollment report, Kate.
And then the discussion on the talent management schedule here. This is a new position, and every new position is supposed to have that form that describes why we are needing a new position, and I didn't see that in my packet.
Can somebody address that?
There is a new form. I mean, is Tracy on the, Tracy, you know what I'm talking about?
I'm on the call, and Patrina's also on the call. I thought that form was included, so I apologize. Didn't we do that form, Patrina?
Yes, we did. I completed the form and
So I'm
submitted
not
it.
sure why it wasn't sent over, because we did do the form. So I apologize for that. I'm not sure why it was not sent over. I'll have to talk to Don. But we did do the form. I know we signed off on the form.
Kate, verbally, I can provide an update. We have an individual that is basically sole responsibility for the Men in Merit program. He's a job grade 9, step 3. We had an administrator that was retiring, and Gore from the middle early college. The proposal is to combine those two positions in line with what we're trying to do throughout the college, reallocate, redeploy. So one individual will be responsible for both those programs. We're upgrading the position just on a salary component only. We're saving almost $61,000 from what we were spending for the two programs individually. And then our fringe rate is 48%. So you're talking about nearly $100,000 of savings. And I apologize for not having the form as part of your package, but we did do the due diligence. Katrina worked very hard on demonstrating not only the financial savings, but the synergy between the two programs and how we can make the program better. And a little later, you're going to be asked to approve an MOU with college. So I think it's another step that we're moving forward to create a better product and a better program for the college.
I'll jump in really quick. I know for a fact that we reviewed the documents and the talent management. There's an echo. I'm sorry. And the talent. Okay. And the talent management meeting. So if we can please, as soon as possible, send those documents over to Kelly so she can forward them or put them into our packet, or unless she already has them.
The form is in Bill's office, so I just text Donna. So Bill, the form is in your office. I think it's in your office waiting on your signature.
I'm not suggesting that given Bill's explanation and the need for this is very clear. And given that it's a cost savings, I'm not against voting for this now, but I would stress that I'm not going to vote for these in the future if that form's not there.
And then there was also a question last meeting and a request, may have been Trustee Stone. We had that early retirement incentive that closed as of the end of our last fiscal year. We had 30 individuals that participated. We had 24 faculty members and 6 administrators. We had 15 faculty come back as an adjunct faculty member. They are provided that under their collective bargaining agreement. So there are roughly 15 of the 24 faculty members have come back in an adjunct role, and 3 of the 6 administrators have come back, and their role is to provide the necessary succession planning. They have a time period where they are coming back for a maximum of 60 days, at which point that 60-day will not be renewed. So again, I think it was a question that Trustee Stone, and I will report that information each and every month moving forward.
You said 14 of 30 faculty and 3 of 6 administrators?
15 faculty and 3. Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you for that. Yes, our comfort on that. There are some services being performed, and we have a 60-day on this goes on, right?
For the administrators, faculty will teach the entire semester. Again, that's embedded in their collective bargaining agreement that they have the right to come back and teach on an adjunct basis. And just speaking about the early retirement incentive, to date, the board approved for our request incentive going forward with faculty and our other 3 collective bargaining unions, administrative, CSA, and ASME. As of Tuesday, Dan Kaufman updated me. At this point in time, 16 faculty have expressed an interest in this new round of the early retirement incentive, and then 3 individuals from the other 3 unions, CSA, ASME, and Administrative Association. And I will keep the board up to date on that each and every month as well.
Since we have some dead air really quick, can everyone just please check their phones and computers and put them on mute? The echo is horrible.
It is.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Okay, do I hear a second?
I do have a few questions on the consent agenda. So,
On the first two items or the next 8?
I have, okay, so for the first item, for the Presto Sports, it says that we have,
Well, Denise, let's do this. Let's approve the
Oh,
first two items.
got you.
The other items are outside the committee structure, so we'll take those individually. But
Okay.
there is a motion that's been seconded to approve the items 1 and 2 in the consent agenda. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, so now we can, thank you. Now we can move on to the 8 items that come in outside the traditional structure. Items 1 through 8. Denise, I think you had a question about number 1.
Okay, so just a point of clarification. We're asking to pay for another web service. And I remember conversation of Paula saying that she was completely redoing our web platform to streamline it and things like that. But from what I'm and just make it clear, what I understand is that we need this platform because it talks about stats and schedules and things, and that can't be incorporated into our current platform.
Denise, great question. And yes, it could be incorporated, but we also have to enter into information into the National Junior College Athletic Association website. So we would be replicating that data and entering it twice. The beauty of this program is accessible 24/7. So whenever a game is completed, we can send the information in and the site gets updated. This Presto Sports actually designed the website for us back in 2016. It's really the platform that's used throughout Region 3 for athletics. Very robust platform, and the cost is, any dollar is important, but the cost over the 3-year average is about $2,583. It's a 3-year contract. Again, it just allows us instantaneous information as well as not the need to duplicate the information in our own internal website as well as external.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so that we got item 1. Any other questions out of any of the other items?
I have a question on the
Go ahead,
social, number 2, item number 2. So in July, at the request of SUNY, we passed new language for all guidance on internships during the crisis. And that included language that said our interns are entitled to PPE and training, just like people who are employed by that sponsor.
Right.
And I don't see any of that language included in this internship agreement with Erie County. And I don't understand why, just in July, we said this is what we're going to do going forward, and it's not in.
Okay, Bill, do you have anything on that?
This was language that the county actually sent us for approving it's an updated version of the internship agreement that we have with the Department of Social Services for the placement of our human services certificate students. I don't have an answer to your specific question. We updated language. This came from the county who updated our language. I don't know that Leslie is on the phone right now, and if she is not, if Doug has any information in this regard.
Yeah, this actually came over from the county in, I believe it was July 20th or 22nd, oddly enough. And so it actually came from them prior to them, Leslie adding that language. So that would be
So
why.
is there any trouble in going back to them and adding that language? Because we need to be consistent. And, there's also language in there about, 30-day breach. And if there's a breach of the contract, that either party can go. We should just be consistent is what I'm saying.
Yeah, for my piece, the difficulty with going back is that it's going back and back into a very long funnel of processes to get something approved by them. That's just my concern there.
Doug, could we have somebody call over there? If we were to approve this today without the without the information that Kate is talking about. Could we get some confirmation from them, like next week, that this is going to be addressed?
Do you mean adding language to a revised form, or that the PP would be provided?
Well, the PP will be provided.
And the training. I would just say we could pass this contingent upon that language being added, right? The language that was requested by SUNY. And then I'm fine with that.
I will reach out to Leslie as soon as this meeting is over and ask for that. I request you do support this so we can place the interns, but we'll make sure we have the proper language.
Okay, that'll be good. Doug, if you could follow up on that, that would be great. Okay, any of these other items that people want to address?
So I have a question regarding the number 3, the workforce development.
Yes.
Those courses, and this is also a point of clarification for me, we pay out to have these courses offered, correct?
We pay the instructor or the vendor to deliver the courses, and we charge the participants a higher rate, so they are all profit-making endeavors. They're non-credit. I've asked the academic leadership to give me sort of a overview of the profits generated under these programs. So that is being worked on right now, but they're supposed to be profit-making things.
Okay.
We pay the vendor. We only run it if we have enough participants to pay for the costs provided. And you will also know that we have changed the title.
I did notice that. Thank you.
It was a creative title. There was a lot of emails going back and forth to change the title. It's not a beautiful title, but it is a change in title.
Okay. So, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Bill, this is Jeff. Looking at item 8, treasurer of the college, I understand that and I see the rationale for that. Is this part of what you're doing to kind of fill the financial management gap? I know you're here as interim president and you have a strong financial background, but is this part of what you're doing to try to cobble together the financial management end of this?
Yes and no. We're required to have a treasurer. The title that I'm recommending to be appointed was the treasurer for 20 plus years before his role was changed at some point over the last year and a bit. So he is coming back to assume the role of treasurer. He is also, as you mentioned, Jeff, assuming additional responsibilities. He is heading up purchasing, and he's heading up the bursar function. So he is was our business manager, and his role was treasurer, opening up bank accounts, responsible for petty cash, responsible for the timely deposit of all revenues. So that role was part of his responsibility at one point in time. We had a separate purchasing director. So he's taken on more responsibility. And similar to what we talked about with Marvin, we're trying to move people to not just sole functionality, staying within the collective bargaining agreement, of course, but we need people to do more. And that certainly is a case in point for this. It's not a paid position. He doesn't get additional monies or anything like that. It's just it's a title that he can sign checks, open bank accounts, and things of that nature.
Okay, thank you.
So is that a lateral move? There's no increase in pay?
No, it's just a title.
It's
just official signature on our checks.
Great.
Penny is still a signer on our checks.
And I just have one other question about number 5, and that's the Law Enforcement Training Academy. Is there any effort to reach out to active duty, not just cadets and people who are entering the academy, but to share this kind of training with active duty law enforcement?
This is a required, EVOC is a required program as part of the training academy, the Law Enforcement Training Academy. So it's a part of the curriculum for that program. It's a requirement. And I'm sure police agencies use different locations, but this is strictly for the law enforcement academy. And
Right.
a little footnote, at one point, we wouldn't even been before you on this request because way back when, those parking lots were part of ECC. They were not part of the Buffalo Bills. And there was a trade made. We gave up the parking lots and we got a fence around a track at South Campus. That was the trade-off.
Kate, were you actually asking about?
Yeah, I'm actually asking about the training, you know, of the, not the tactical training, but the anti-bias
Anti-racial.
training and that kind of thing.
Oh,
So I think that's a line of business. Yeah, okay. So I think that's a line of business we could get into. It's more than just the cadets that need that training. So, sorry, I wasn't clear.
No, I put the two law enforcement items one after another, so my apology. I have Tracy Archie on the phone, and Tracy Archie is really sort of helping lead us, not only for the Police Academy initiative, but a college-wide initiative. So Tracy, you want to say a few words and address Trustee Masiello's question?
Good morning. That's a great question, Trustee Masiello. We have not done anything as far as my area in reaching out to local police or law enforcement agencies. I know that they do have other training requirements that they are doing. I know that the Buffalo, the Community Foundation is also looking at reaching out to the law enforcement agency. So I know that it is something that the Racial Equity Roundtable is looking at as well. So I know it's in the works. But for us, we have not reached out to anyone to extend our training with the Law Enforcement Academy.
I think it's a potential source of revenue, and we have the facilities to do it. So let's just try to explore that with the people and the entities that are already involved. If there's a way we can partner and help spread that important training.
Absolutely. I will bring that up. I am a part of the Racial Equity Roundtable, and I will bring that forward to see how we could collaborate.
Tracy, so
Yes.
the police academy is paying us for this training, the 450 or the 750, right? Correct.
Paying us?
Well, paying. It says the fees for this is 450 or 750. Who paid that?
That's to pay our lead facilitator.
Yeah, we can take this.
We are paying that fee as part of the curriculum. The program at the training academy is those employed already do not pay tuition. Those that have not yet been employed by a policing agency pays their own tuition. So it's sort of a blend. And that's a college program. We generate state aid, we generate tuition and fees. So this is a cost of doing that training academy. And it's a very important initiative that we want to be part of the program.
Okay. Yes. Thank you. Len, I'm done.
And to Tracy Archie's, a follow-up is, this is not for the college. I know Kate mentioned the community, but for the college, we want to engage in this type of training for the whole college. We don't want to limit to the police academy. I know it's a different slant, but we have one of our own professors that at ECC that provides the training. So we need to engage her and Tracy in providing the college at large the appropriate training.
And we are working with the director of the program as well. So the three of us will be working very strong together. We've put together a really nice draft curriculum. And so, we'll keep you updated as we move along.
Okay. On items 1 through 8, any other questions on any of the other items that came out after committee meetings? Going once, going twice. Okay. If that's the case, so why don't we entertain a motion to approve items 1 through 8 I know in item 2, we're going to get back to Kate. We'll get some more information, but we are approving that.
Contingent upon language being added that is required by SUNY.
Correct.
That's the motion.
Okay. So, Kate, so we want to do that a special motion for item number 2?
Why not?
Okay. So why don't you add your motion to the item number 2?
I move that we remove item 2 from the long list of 8 items to vote on for items received outside of the committee meetings, and that we take up item 2 contingent upon the addition of language required by SUNY regarding COVID-19 and PPE and training for our students in their internship.
Okay, and I'll second that. So let's take that item number 2 up now. Kate has offered that amendment. On the amendment, all those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
Now on the motion as amended, all those in favor say aye.
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 Okay, that item is, any dissensions? Didn't think I heard any. That being the case, that item 2 is approved as amended. So we're now going to take items 1 through 8 minus 2. And do I hear a motion to move approval of what I call consent agenda B, I guess? Is there a motion?
So moved.
I'll make the motion.
Okay, motion made, and I think I heard a second. I did, didn't I?
Is that Albert?
Albert, are you on the call?
Yes.
Great.
Albert, welcome. Okay, so trustee 2 seconded. All those in favor of items 1 through 8 minus number 2, all those say aye.
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 Opposed? Items are approved. Thank you. Okay, so moving along, we're going to go into the committee briefings at this point. Budget audit, Jeff, the chair of that committee, Jeff Stone, is on the call. Jeff, what do you have for us today?
Thank you. I'll keep this relatively brief today because we're going to hear most of the relevant information in President Reuter's enrollment report and revenue and expense report. We last met as a budget and audit committee on August 13th. Since that time, we had a board of trustees meeting on August 27th, at which point I reported on the August 13 meeting. We've not had a separate budget and audit committee meeting since August 27th, so I have no separate report on that. Just a couple of broad topics, though. I continue to be disappointed, as I know we all are, with the lack of progress in Washington on a relief measure, an additional relief measure in the wake of COVID. One that we as an organization highly dependent on state and county dollars are counting on. And we have not seen progress there. We have about a $2 trillion latest offer bill out of the House, about a $500 billion so-called skinny bill out of the Senate. Negotiations are wire. We have, to the extent any kind of relief bill is happening, it has to happen within the next 6 business days in Congress, and that leaves us after that, Congress recesses to go back home and campaign. So if we don't see a relief bill by very early October, we're not going to see one until after the election. And that's not good news for SUNY Erie or a host of similar organizations, statewide and nationwide. We'll hear more about that from President Reuter. And certainly we're all disappointed to not see relief coming. To the extent anyone on this call has the ability to influence that discussion by talking to local congressmen, opinion leaders in the community, statewide, nationwide, continue to make the case that SUNY Erie and organizations like it are highly dependent on some legislation here would provide relief to states and localities, the entities that depend on them. So that's a very significant factor right now that we do not have that relief bill. A couple other quick things. I'd like to refer everyone to, the minutes of last meeting. Just a quick thing. There was a mention there, Bill, of the working with the county to see if some of our COVID-related costs could possibly be covered by Erie County using the CARES Act dollars that the county has that are targeted for such costs. And I just wanted to underscore that from the board's perspective, it's important that those discussions keep going. To the extent that the county has money that's looking for a home and can only be expended on COVID-related expenses, if we can provide good documentation of such expenses, that would certainly take burden off, and perhaps we can tap those dollars. So I just want to underscore how important that is, especially in the absence of additional federal legislation. And then thinking now about Trustee 2, and Albert, we're going to miss you. I know your last day is coming up, September 30th, I think. So echoing what Len and others have said before, it's been a real pleasure to know you and work with you on the board, and wish you well. And it's just been a very good tenure that you've had as the student trustee. But one of the things that you were continually bringing up and keeping us reminded of was the formula for the funding of community colleges in New York State. And we know that roughly that is supposed to be 1/3 on the backs of the students through tuition, 1/3 through the local sponsor, and 1/3 through the state. I'm talking now about operating costs, not capital costs. Now, that we all know sort of generally from talking about it with Albert and others and from hearing it in reports. But I just wanted to bring everyone's attention to our book today. On page 56, you will see Article 126 of, I believe, the education law that talks about community colleges and state-aided four-year colleges. This happens to be in our book to support the proposal for the treasurer, because you will see some highlighted yellow language that makes it clear that we have to have a treasurer and so forth. But while that's interesting, and I support the approval of a treasurer, what I really want to point out to board members here and to others on the call is the importance. If you look at section 304, I think that's on page 59, it talks about financing of community colleges. So this 6 or 8 pages of legislation is what we all should be reading to understand, first of all, how community colleges are set up around the state, what they're supposed to be doing, what the legislative concept is for them, and importantly, how they are to be funded. So you can see in 63041A on page 59, state financial aid shall be 1/3 of the amount of operating costs. If you flip to page 60, under section little I, little v, subsection C, about a quarter down up from the bottom, the local sponsor or sponsors shall provide essentially 1/3 of the operating costs. And then on page 61, to Albert's point made in the past, section D near the top, tuition and fees charged students shall be fixed so as not to exceed in the aggregate more than 1/3 of the amount of operating costs of the community college. So here we have it in black and white, what Albert has been saying, what the board has been saying. And I want to make sure that at our board retreat on October 23rd, we spend time talking about this formula for funding and talking about what we as a board of trustees and a college community can do to bring our funding formula that we are experiencing here on the ground in Erie County more in line, and ideally completely in line with what the legislation for community college funding calls for. We are out of line right now. The students are bearing about 50% of the cost. And I realize that there are many contributions made by our sponsor and by our state toward capital and other things. So I don't want to come off here as bashing any partner of community college here in Erie County, but there is a formula spelled out in statute. We're really not aligned with it. And I would like that to be a subject of discussion at our board retreat, which I'm looking forward to on October 23rd. I will stop there, but I wanted to bring up those points as part of the budget report.
And Jeff, I will just two comments on the county. I had that conversation with the county executive earlier this month. I saw the budget director and the deputy budget director when I was at the legislature last week for a capital matter, and then I had my monthly call with the county executive at 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock today, and that is something that I've already written down. I will go more into some of the state impacts as part of my financial report, but we are now being told, for instance, FEMA, we were part of the 64 SUNY institutions that SUNY was going to file a FEMA reimbursement claim. Just earlier this week, the direction is that each community college will now be on their own to file a claim. So we have been tracking eligible costs for the COVID-19. So I have that available. And again, we are discussing, that's part of my items to discuss with the county executive later today. As far as the funding formula, this year, the state amount is going to go much, much less. You're going to see student tuition fees be in excess of 50% if the delays in funding actually turn into cuts. The formula really is, you reference a 33 1/3% equal share. The language really speaks to the state providing up to 40%. So it's really a 6/15, 5/15, 4/15, where the student's paying 5/15 and the county, the sponsor, pays 26.7%, 4/15. That's really, the state can fund up to 40%. They've never done that. There used to be language that if we charge more than 1/3, that difference would have to be kept in a restricted fund. And SUNY sort of got rid of that restriction, so now there's really no control on tuition rates being charged to students and/or fees. It is subject, obviously, to the local board of trustees, but it's also subject to the SUNY board of trustees, and they will be taking up community college tuition fee schedules at the latter part of October as part of their board meeting. So I totally agree. Students have been paying way, way more than their share as prescribed, but it's going to get worse.
Okay. Before we move on to Kate's committee, I just want to, if Bob Dramani is on the call, Albert has been experiencing some static and his connection is not as steady as it should be. So Bob, if you could just check with Albert and make sure that he's fully engaged in the meeting, I'd appreciate that.
We will do that.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, let's move on to policy and governance. Chair Kate Mazziello.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the Policy and Governance Committee met on September 14th. We reviewed a number of policies. The minutes from our March 6th meeting are there for your information. One of the things we discussed, and it's in those minutes, is the need for a future board meeting to address the cap items. Some of them require annual review. Because of the COVID-19 crisis, we have maybe the schedule for reviewing those has been postponed, but I just mentioned that we need to get it on a future board meeting so that we can review where we are with cap items for each committee and the college as a whole. The next meeting of the Policy and Governance Committee is 4 o'clock Wednesday, October 14th, and you are all invited to join our Zoom call. Does anybody have questions on any of the items in our minutes? Okay, thank you. That's my report.
Len, you're on mute.
Sorry, Todd. I was going to.
First time I've heard that all day long. I missed that. Len, you're on mute.
Okay. Trustee Hobler, on your report, anything you want to talk about the minutes?
No, we had our meeting on August 26th. I reported on it
Yes.
at our board meeting on the 27th. Our next meeting is on October 14th. I would note that the minutes that are attached to our agenda seem to be from they are from our our strategic planning meeting on March 11th. So we'll need to have those corrected, and we'll present the minutes from our August 26th meeting for approval or for information at our next board meeting.
Okay. Todd, what time is your meeting on the 14th?
9 a.m., I believe.
Okay. Just want to make note of that.
Yep.
Okay.
And can I suggest?
I'm sorry. Just to clarify, as Kelly pointed out, usually the minutes don't show up until the committee has approved. So the committee has not approved your last meeting, thus that's why it's not on the agenda for today.
All right, that makes sense.
And why the long gap between March and now because you haven't met, presumably.
Okay,
Yeah.
Can I just ask that for this committee, I see references to like standard 7 of middle states. It would be nice to have a little key at the bottom, like what those standards are to remind us, what, because just referencing standard 1 doesn't remind me of what that is. But just a little title on what it is, if they're ever going to be referenced in minutes or some other document, that we just have a little cheat sheet to understand what is being referenced. That would be helpful to me.
okay.
Make that change.
Standard 7 should be etched in our brains with the, yeah, but standard 1, I'm not so sure of. So yeah, I get your point. Thank you.
Thanks, Todd. Okay, curriculum, student success and diversity, as co-chairs Schwartz and Wilson, any report of any note?
Susan, I'll take it. We did not meet in September. Our meeting minutes from August 11th are not included because they're not approved. But I just want to highlight again that we're going to focus on evaluations for our next meeting. We're also going to key in on, oh my goodness, it's slipping me right now. We're going to key in on evaluations. Evaluations of courses by students at the end of each semester. That'll be our focus our next meeting.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we'll move on with report of the chair. Let me make 2 notes. First, the item executive committee, page 86, we're gonna basically receive and file that. And the second item I want to talk about is after I'm done, we're gonna move on to ad hoc reports. The 4th ad hoc report will be the nominations committee, and I will report out those that have expressed interest in nomination, and I'll report out the slate of officers for at that point. So now let me just say this, in that we're going to have new officers starting at the next meeting. This is my last meeting as chair, and how can I put this? I always like to quote that Chinese quote, "May you live in interesting times." And certainly the last 2 years, not so much the first year of my term, that was pretty ho-hum, although some financial issues were starting to show up on the horizon. But certainly the second year, I guess we could all agree, was sort of unprecedented. We, even before we got into COVID, we were looking at some financial issues, but we also were looking at leadership changes, and we have made changes at the top. We've made other changes, and then coinciding with that process, which we really didn't culminate until the end of June, in terms of leadership, we came in head to head with COVID in March of this year, and from that point on, it seems like nothing has ever been the same. We obviously totally upended our class schedule. Provost Scheit did a yeoman's job and get us into remote learning almost overnight. And then everything we did from that point was COVID related. Certainly how we meet, as a leadership group. The finances of the school have been greatly impacted by the COVID crisis. And as Jeff pointed out in his report, we're hopeful that something happens with the stimulus, but I'm not overly optimistic. I'm sort of an optimistic guy, but given that in the next 2 weeks they've got to deal with a debt ceiling crisis on September 30th, now have a Supreme Court nomination before them. I don't know where we're going to fit into that. Plus, they're going to be going into recess in October to finish up their campaign. So there's no doubt that we are all in this boat together. The boat is rocking, but we are surviving. And my main thought today is just appreciation. Appreciation for the opportunity to serve, but also just appreciation to be amongst everybody on this call. what has been asked of you as the staff, the administrators at all levels, has been remarkable. And we got through it. We got through it. We were tough. But so I'm just appreciative of your support. And just want to say that I'm proud of the last 2 years that we were able to get through it. We did it together. And I'm looking forward to the future. I still have 3 years on my term, so you're going to be stuck with me around for a while. But so anyways, I just want to express those thoughts and thank everybody for your cooperation and support. So,
Well, then, Jeff, and
thank you.
person who's known you
Okay,
a very long
let's move
time.
on to, I'm sorry.
Just as a person, it's Jeff speaking, and just a person who's known you in many capacities for a very long time, I just want to express on behalf of hopefully everyone on the call, I'm sure, how grateful we are to have had the benefit this past year and even the year before, to have your steady, calm, and reassuring and overly optimistic outlook on things. It's really been comforting, helpful. While you are an optimist, you also are a practical politician for your entire life. And you've wrestled with problems that correspond to the ones we're facing. You know, countywide, I remember the red, the green budget and all the things that grew out of that, where you were, I think, the majority leader at that time. And your leadership skills have been honed over a lifetime of serving the community here in Western New York. And you put them to great use here in Erie in the last 2 years. And we are all very, very grateful for your leadership and very grateful that you'll be part of the leadership team still on the Board of Trustees for years to come. So thank you on behalf of everyone, fellow trustees and everyone on the call.
Great. Thanks so much, Jeff.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks.
Let's move on to the ad hoc reports. First one is marketing. I don't know if Paul is on the call, but I know we haven't met in a while, but I know we're getting retooled there and we're going to be, very involved in the next, during the next term. I don't know if Paul is on the call or not. If not, we'll go to technology. So I don't think there's a report because we have not met and I'm on that committee. Technology report, Carrie Phillips, I know she's been meeting with Mina. Any report? If not, we'll move on. Telemanagement, Susan, anything you want to say there? Okay.
Susan, you're on mute.
Who's on mute?
Susan's on mute. I think she's talking, but she's muted.
Okay.
There you go, Susan.
Did you say that
Good
was
to
Carrie
go.
or Susan?
We're good to go.
Okay.
I think, can I just add for talent management that we're going to be looking thoroughly at job descriptions and making sure that job descriptions are updated and reviewed.
We've been doing those for a long time and we continue to going on that.
Yeah. And the other thing I was going to add, I didn't get a chance to is that we've got racial equity impact training coming up on October 19th, Kate. And so we've got about almost 40 people that are interested in the training. So we may have to do 2 sessions because I think the max is 30 per session. So we are moving forward with that and everyone's excited about that. And we have a racial equity analysis committee that's been meeting and met yesterday and put together some goals that we're going to be focusing on as we move forward. So that's something else that we can also discuss at our management call next month.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. So if there's no other comments about the first 3 ad hoc committees, we will go to the nominations committee. And I have talked to each of the trustees and try to ascertain interest levels from everybody in terms of the officers. What I have compiled is the fact that Denise Wilson is a candidate for chair. She's been the vice chair for the past 2 years and is certainly one of our most hardworking members. Jeff Stone is expressing interest in being vice chair. And also an exciting, still relatively new member of our board, but has done some great work. Kate Mazziello, both dutifully and thankfully has agreed to continue to serve as secretary of the board. She's interested in that. In my discussion with the trustees, I asked if anyone else was interested in any other offices or being a candidate. And so before we move on to vote on a slate, is there any member of the Board of Trustees that is interested in being a candidate for any of these three offices? Okay, if not, what I'll do is make a motion to move the slate. Denise Wilson for chair, Jeff Stone for vice chair, and Kate Mazziello for secretary of the board.
I'll make the motion.
Okay, there's been a motion made. Do I hear a second?
Carrie Phillips, I second.
Okay, and it's been seconded. Let me just say that I just think this is a great slate to carry on into a very difficult year. This next year is probably not going to be any easier than the past year, but I am confident with the slate of officers we have just an exciting combination of leadership here, and working together. I think they're going to provide the campus, the campus community, and the community at large with top flight leadership. So, with that being said, I'd like to take a vote on the motion that's been made and seconded to elect Denise Wilson, Jeff Stone, and Kate Mazziello as our slate for next year.
Why don't I call the roll on that, Len?
Please do.
Okay. So Todd Hobler?
Enthusiastically, yes.
Len Lenahan?
Enthusiastically, yes.
I also vote yes, and thank you, Len, for agreeing to work with the executive committee and for all that you've done for our college.
Sure, thank you.
During very difficult times. Carrie Phillips?
I vote yes. Very excited about that slate. Thank you.
Jeff Stone?
I vote yes, looking forward to serving.
Susan Swartz?
It's a great team. Way to go.
Well, that's a yes.
That's a yes.
Denise Wilson?
Humbly.
Oh, you.
And I also want to say thank you, Lynn, for your amazing leadership during these last 3 years. I don't know how many of you know, but Lynn is one of the busiest people I've ever met. And I would beg him, Lynn, tell me, I'll go for you, or, I'll be there for you. But he always showed up when was called, and was, just a tremendous leader. And the shoes to fill are enormous. So if it's okay, I'll just put yours on the shelf and I'll walk in mine. Because I can never do it. Thank you so much.
You're going to do great.
And Albert, too.
Yes. I think everything that can be said about Len and everyone else has been said, and I really do think that that team will continue in Len's footsteps, continue to do the best thing they can for the institution. I truly believe that. Thank you.
That's unanimous.
Yes. Well, congratulations to our new slate of officers, Denise, Jeff, and Kate. By the way, while we're saying sort of being a little sentimental here, Albert is leaving. This is probably Albert's last meeting. We're going to be getting a new student trustee at the end of the month. And Albert, too, has been a part of this board at a very interesting time. And
sure.
You know what, Albert, just I want you to say a few words, but just thank you for just your strength. You came on board, you showed up, and all of a sudden you're president of the Student Senate and Student Government Association, and then you're a member of the Board of Trustees. And you've been here for all these, the leadership changes, COVID, financial issues, all kinds of issues with the students that you dealt with on a daily basis. So we're appreciative, and we certainly wish you best. Albert's now in a graduate program for public administration, and he's going to obviously he's going to do really well. But thank you, Albert, on behalf of the board. Thank you, and wish you just say a few words as you depart our board.
Yes, thank you, Len. I'll let before I go. I'm not one for long speeches, but before I go into prepared, I want to thank everyone on the board for their continued guidance and help throughout this entire year. I do know that members of the board always keep students first. I'll also like to acknowledge. Well, you know what? Let me go into my speech and let me catch up to everything else at the end. I do want to publicly thank the members of the board. I want to assure my successor that their actions as board members have, to my knowledge, always acted in the best interest of student area students. I'd like to thank my fellow student government officers I've served with, our project coordinators, Mrs. Burnett, Mrs. Parker, and Christy Viduette, and Dean Jason Perry. I wouldn't be able to function effectively as a trustee without the combined efforts of SGA team, PCs, and Dean Perry. As everyone knows, you can't do everything alone, at least not effectively. And they are the team that really propped me up throughout the entire year. So any success I've had is basically on their shoulders. I want to thank the unsung heroes in the background, Kelly, Gail, and Bob. They're probably the hardest working individuals at SUNY Erie. If I could pass anything on to my successor, it's continue to fight for the 1/3 funding formula for our students, as Jeff so eloquently stole my thunder earlier. It's okay, Jeff. In my estimation, all the issues we have tried to address as SUNY SGA officers, such as food insecurity, access to education, etc., have unfortunately boiled down to money. And limiting student tuition fees to 1/3 costs of 50% would go a long way. That's all I have. Jeff, I'm not really upset about you stealing my thunder. It's not the first time, and if I continued in this role, it would have been the last. But it just goes to show that you're the right person for vice chair when it comes to, especially when it comes to facing student issues. I want to thank you all for your help and support. And for those that haven't mentioned my name, you know who you are. And I wish that you continue these efforts with my successor, as he or she is going to need your assistance as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Albert. And we wish
We've been inspired by you, Albert.
Yeah, Albert,
too,
you were a real
Albert.
gift. Yeah, Albert, you were a real gift for us. I really admire you, and you're gonna go up high. You're wonderful. You're very warm and thoughtful, and it's been a pleasure to be with you.
Thanks, Albert. All the best.
Thank you all. And I do appreciate the kind words. If you ever find yourselves out west, give me a call.
Absolutely. So we do have, quite a bit more to go. So let's go to the report of the interim president, Bill.
Thank you. I do want to start and echo the comments that have been made with Chairman Lenahan. He is an amazing chair. He's an amazing leader. His guidance, advice, and counsel since I arrived back on campus July 1st has certainly been invaluable to me, not only navigating SUNY Erie, but the external forces within Erie County. So, Mr. Lenahan, I'm so glad that you were here when I came back, and I'm so glad to hear that you have another 3 years, but, the county executive could always reappoint for another 7 years, so let's start with 3 years. And to incoming Chair Wilson, I certainly look forward to your leadership, your passion, and your obvious deep commitment to the community. I think it will serve this college very well. I think we need to do a better job reconnecting with our community and certainly with our underrepresented student population. That certainly is a passion. It's not your sole focus, but it's certainly a major focus, and we certainly need to do a better job because it's our community. It's our job to take care of our community in higher education. So I look forward to working with you. You were on the board when I left, and you're still here. And like Lenahan, I know the board members can get reappointed, so hopefully you're here for many, many more years.
Thanks, Bill.
So the
Thank
nice
you.
things are out of the way, and now I'm going to focus on all the negatives, unfortunately. As far as fall enrollment, Bob, can you bring up what we sent out with the board package? As I indicated, we're going to give board the reality of our enrollment and our financial situation. These were the numbers that went out last Thursday. As far as the board is concerned, our headcount and FTEs were down in excess of what we had projected in our budget. This morning, Fabio reran the numbers, and the shortfall is climbing. As of this morning, our headcount is actually down 21.6%, and our FTEs are off 18.2%. Looking further at the information, a big reason why our headcount is so far off, 488 students alone, is due to our concurrent enrollment, those advanced study programs in our high schools. At this same point in time, we had over 600 students that were enrolled. Presently, we only have 138. So I reached out to Steve and Doug and Fabio, and what they're seeing is with the high schools not being in person every day, we are having a difficult time interacting with students, running the programs. So that is a big concern. The good thing is it's not a huge FTE generator, it's more a headcount generator, but it's troubling. I ran some numbers late yesterday afternoon, and if you look at SUNY Erie from 2010-11, which was our high point of enrollment, we are down on the credit side, which means full tuition, full state aid, full fees. Our credit enrollment is down 46.71%. That's based on our budget for next year. So we cannot continue with this trajectory. To address the funnel question, and as far as admissions counselors, the funnel is pretty much cleaned out. There are only 67 applicants as of right now, and all those applicants cannot be processed any further because they're missing information that does not allow them to move forward. We did waive the requirement to have an official transcript up front, so that helped in the process, but that funnel as far as applicants is being monitored very, very closely. We do, however, have 1,348 students that have stopped somewhere during the application process. So Steve and Bill are working on trying to identify those students, reach out to them. Why did they stop the application process? So they are looking at those items. A question was raised last, I believe, 2 meetings about looking at our revenue, our tuition revenue, and breaking it down by student type to know what revenue or tuition rates we were charging. SUNY was able to provide us some data. So we have data that tells us full-time students and part-time students, what they're paying as an in-resident or in-county student, what they're paying as a in-state resident student. If you know, if a student comes from Niagara County, they pay our tuition rate as long as they have a certificate of residency. So we have that information. We have all non-resident broken down. So we know any student from outside New York State or international, or those students that live in the state but don't have a certificate of residency. And then we have all the part-time students broken down. The only thing that we're missing from the data analysis is SUNY sort of commingles the part-time data. So we're not able to just look at the part-time and just multiply it by our part-time rate and come up with our revenue, because blended in there is our advanced study students that some are only paying 1/3 prescribed discounted tuition or no tuition. So we're still working on that. I know you asked that last 2 meetings, Kate. So we have started that analysis. It's going to be really after the fact because that's the information SUNY gets us. But once we understand how to just look at the SUNY information, we'll be able to be moving forward on it. Again, it's not a great enrollment picture. We are looking at working on some initiatives. We've had discussions, part of senior staff, along with the leadership of the faculty and college senate, looking at an opportunity to do a sort of late start this semester, targeting some classes that are high demand, that's high enrollment at the beginning of classes, and really using a model that Adiam talked about, like a 7.5 week course. So we are looking at that. We're not sure we're going to be able to kick it off for fall. My exchange of emails later last night was, I surely hope at least that we can do a small cohort of 1 or 2 courses, but we're trying everything we can to address the enrollment. It's throughout the entire state. I think there's only one community college that has an increase. Not that that helps us with our situation, but it's a statewide issue with the enrollment. And I will certainly entertain any questions on the enrollment piece.
I wondered, the chart on page 88, Bill, that breaks it down by campus. Why can you attribute the decrease at South Campus, which seems to be more severe than the other campuses? Is there any obvious reason for that?
We're still trying to wrap our hands around the distance learning numbers, Kate. We had when we went up to put our courses on WebAdvisor, we did not denote a campus, and I think students may have chosen based upon first come, first serve versus by campus location. Most students are affiliated with a campus, but we have to look at the distance learning number and seeing how many of those students are really a campus-based students versus a truly fully online student. And we've had discussions on trying to really look at, because distance learning obviously has a large growth. And to me, that should only be tracking our full degree programs that are delivered remotely, not the one-offs or two-offs that are delivered via distance learning. So it was, I think, a situation with our way our schedule was reflected in WebAdvisor. The faculty brought it to our concern because their schedules are based upon campuses. And if we're seeing significant drops in a particular campus, that could affect their load. But we are seeing South, the long-term trends pre-COVID has been declining. It used to be 50% of our enrollment was North, 25 City, and 25 South, and now City is showing higher numbers than South. And that's, as we've discussed, and certainly an item for the retreat, the board having the discussion about the 3 campuses, the realignment of the 3 campuses, programs being offered on the 3 campuses. And it's a troubling, but before the retreat, I will look at that distance learning and try to identify the true numbers for the 3 campuses. But it is troubling, irrespective or respective. If no other questions on the enrollment, I certainly wish it was better news.
I do have a question.
Troubling. Yeah.
Relatedly, I raised my hand, but nobody noticed. So just, I know that our budget numbers were pegged on 15% decline, and so that's we have some, to make up some ground there somehow. I don't know what the status is of the collective bargaining, whether or not we could have some sort of update on that. I know that we were set to begin negotiations towards the end of the summer, but I just haven't heard an update. Maybe I missed it somewhere along the line, but that would be useful in this context.
We have not provided an update to the board. There is no negotiations presently. As you're aware, we have the contract with the Faculty Federation as well as the Administrators Association had an expiration date as of August 31st, 2020. And Todd, you well know that under the Cal law, all the terms and conditions of that collective bargaining agreement continue until a successor agreement is negotiated. but all the other provisions, whether it's step increases, rank advancement, administrative advancements, and everything else is part of that, those contracts remain. I'm not sure if Tracy or Dan have had any direct discussions with the union leadership as part of labor management on restarting negotiations for a successor agreement.
We have not at this moment. We started some conversations prior to Penny leaving, but we have not engaged in any conversations at this point.
And Todd, I will or Tracy will reach out to the union leadership about setting a meeting up just to talk about to start negotiations. I did reach out to the president of the Administrators Association on certain clause within their contract that management would certainly like to modify, but we've not had any kind of discussions about full-blown negotiations.
I have a question. Would any trustee be interested in receiving a copy of the contracts?
Kelly, are those on the board portal, do you know? Kelly, if they're not on now, we'll put them on the board site so the
Okay.
board has
They're
access
pretty
to the
thick,
contracts.
though. They're very thick. I mean, it's taken me months to go through the faculty one, and I'm still not finished.
Yeah.
And there are admin ones, only because all these years I haven't looked, and I just wanted to see what is in place. So if I urge you, I mean, if clearly I'm anal when I'm reading these kinds of things, and I like to write all over them. But for me, having that on a website is just not enough, because there's, I need to reference it. It's a very thick document is what I mean to say. So if you want a copy, I'm sure one could be arranged. And I would like a copy of the admin contract. I don't have that.
Yeah,
Me as well, please.
On the HR site as well. On the HR website.
We will put it on the board website, and for anybody that would like a hard copy of all 4 union agreements, just let Kelly know, and we will hand deliver a hard copy so you have in a binder all 4 contracts.
That'll be very helpful. Thank you,
Yes.
Kelly.
Good, Bill, thanks. That will be helpful.
I'll take it.
That'd be good.
I guess we'll plan on having it to everyone. Albert,
Yes.
you're sort of out of luck, okay?
Good idea.
Okay, that's great.
Actually,
And now,
I couldn't quite hear that as well. You mind repeating it?
pardon me?
I can hear the last few words you said. I think my phone cut in.
Oh, I just said we won't hand deliver your 4 collective bargaining agreements if you're okay with that.
Okay.
I don't think he needs them.
Turning towards the financial report, this is our monthly financial report. This is our first pass at our year-end close. This is on a sort of a cash basis. We have to do a lot of accruals and adjustments from now until our auditors come on site to start their audit process. Again, there are a lot of moving parts. When you see brackets for a net increase, bracket use of fund balance, that is not good. Right now, sort of on a cash basis, we're looking at an almost $11 million deficit on a $98 million operating revenue. That is not good. The numbers will improve based upon a very quick analysis of some of the year-end adjustments that we'll be making. But there are a lot of unknowns, and there's a lot of things changing almost on a daily basis. I've been on this week alone 2 different conference calls through SUNY on the budget, to Jeff's point about federal stimulus, the unknowns include TAP for the fall 20 and spring 21 semester, Excelsior for the spring 20 this past year, as well as going forward, state aid, EOP, use of Institutional CARES Act money, financial aid refunds, how to chargebacks, and the need to resubmit budgets. We adopted budget with a 20% decline in state aid. The state is telling all colleges, there I think were 13 that adopted their budget with a state aid reduction. Yes. They are forcing us to resubmit our budget on the assumption there's no state aid reduction. The messaging coming out of the state of New York right now is funding is delayed, not cut. It's a nuance, but it's important. They're saying it's delayed, not yet cut. So that's going to impact our year-end audit too, how we account for the cut from the fourth quarter last year, as well as what we're doing moving forward. Just yesterday, we got some information that we may not be able to use all the institutional cares funding that was allocated to ECC, the $4.3 million. We may only be able to recognize as much as in CARES institutional portion as we disperse to students as of August 31st, and that would certainly impact us. And then there's also a discussion about some of the eligibility guidelines that were given to us that they may be changing. So there's a lot of moving parts. All are not good. All are significant. We get about $8 million, $9 million of aid through the higher education test. And right now, 20% of those funds are being delayed. And presumably, if federal stimulus doesn't come through, that delay could turn into a cut, further impacting our finances. Questions?
Very sobering.
Yes, it's, let's put it this way, it's the only, I guess, if I had a silver lining for TAP is that it's not just a community college program, it's a statewide SUNY program, and as far as lobbying and impact with politicians, that's going to go a long way. That hopefully TAP may not be hit, but right now the guidance is it's delayed. Monies that we were supposed to get, our first quarter payment at the end of this month, is delayed. SUNY board delayed their board meeting until the end of October. They're looking at tuition increases in excess of 3%. They are that will impact our chargeback rate because without a budget approved by SUNY, we can't use our calculated chargeback rate. So they have to go back and do rebillings. It's not a good situation at all. Luckily, we hired the Associate Vice Chancellor of Finance, Josh Sager, as sort of a assistant to me. He's working a few hours each week, and he is helping this institution navigate through this situation. He was instrumental in many of the things we had to apply for as far as CARES Act funding. He was instrumental in, not to leave Fabio and Bill Shaftall out of the mix, but he's really helped us tremendously with the void in the Vice President of Finance position right now. It's not a good situation, I guess is the bottom line. Any questions on the finance? As far as my president's report, I'm going to read quick. These are my notes. Oh, it's quite a lot, but I will be quick. So as far as our student elections, we actually have student elections that are going to start at 8 a.m. Monday morning and end at 7 p.m. on the 29th. We have a number of students that have submitted their packets for SGA positions, as well as 2 students that have submitted their applications to be considered for student trustee. And those elections will take place next Monday and Tuesday, and we'll verify the results. And hopefully, in the very near future, we'll have a new student trustee to serve on the Board of Trustees. Staying with that election theme, we engaged a company that called TurboVote. It's a SUNY Erie branded website that directs students to help them in applying and participating in the election process. So we are hopeful that we'll get more students registered to vote and then actually to vote. It's an initiative throughout the state that we're participating in. Staying in the student theme, we are launching a club team for esports. There was significant participation last spring semester, and we're launching that for the fall semester. And hopefully, at some point in time, it will actually be considered a sport that is a varsity sport. But we're looking at a location for the students to have space for this activity. My first thought was the former DMV site at South Campus as a separate location, but as I'll report momentarily, that site now is going to be used for another item that is a county rapid test site that was being kicked off in the very near future. I mentioned we're looking at some late start classes and demand programs. The provost has sent out information to the deans and the department chairs to start building 2 different schedules for the spring semester. We anticipate that we will be similar to where we are right now, but we're going to make sure that we build a schedule that we can be back in person, but as well as online, so it's an easy switch. So I thank the deans and the department chairs and the faculty for moving forward with this. We continue with our Campus Clear application. As of yesterday, we had 4,198 individuals that were registered. That's students and staff. And just yesterday, we had over 1,221 people that came on campus that showed their Campus Clear app that they were good to come onto our campus.
Can I interrupt you there?
Pardon me?
Just, the policy committee will be taking up, what are we going to do with this information that Campus Clear is maintaining? For how long? What are we going to do with it? So if anybody has any thoughts of that and they don't make our meeting, please feel free to share them with me via email.
As far as the county, and thank you for that, Kate. You've been saying that since this was first talked about, and we do need to have a policy as far as the data and the information. I mentioned I have the monthly meeting with the county executive later this afternoon, and we continue to receive great support from the county executive's office, the budget office, the county legislature, Department of Public Works, county attorney, to name a few. Speaking about Department of Public Works, I was asked to attend the Economic Development Committee at the legislature last week, Thursday. There was a project involving Spring Student Center at North Campus that was being held up. So I made a presentation, and the committee unanimously approved moving forward with Watts Architecture and Engineering to do design services for some fairly significant improvements to the exterior of Spring Student Center. The bid documents will be completed in late fall, and then we'll bid the project. County will bid the project, and hopefully the project will kick off in the summer of 21 or 20. I'm sorry for that. I also met with representatives from Wendell, and we're looking at trying to move forward with an energy performance audit for the college. There's a program through NYSERDA called TextFlex that allows us to leverage NYSERDA dollars to pay for 1/2 of the project cost, and then any actual improvements you make to the campus that were identified by the energy audit, NYSERDA will allow you to apply costs against the 50% that you pay. So essentially, it's almost a no cost for us, but it allows us to generate energy savings as well as make infrastructure improvements. And there are some definite low-hanging fruit at the institution that has a very quick payback. So I reached out to the county yesterday on how we can move forward with this energy performance. Again, it's through NYSERDA. And then we are finishing the design work for ADA improvements here at City Campus. And then our emergency generator project, which was approved by the legislature after a long, long pause the previous month, that is kicked off at all 3 campuses. As far as the sort of updates, I mentioned a few things already. The chancellor paid us a visit over Labor Day weekend, that Sunday afternoon. I participated in that meeting with both the presidents of UB and Buffalo State, as well as representatives from Iron County Community College. And the discussion was 100% COVID-19, stopping the spread. What do we do? Pool testing. SUNY has mandated all SUNY institutions to move forward with testing, pool testing, and the community college, most community colleges have just started. We had to submit a plan to SUNY to review and approve. That plan had to be submitted 2 weeks ago today, and then SUNY gave us very little feedback just on a checklist that we had put in there, and now we have a fully approved plan that we will start our pool testing on Monday at all 3 campuses. So I really want to extend my great appreciation to a lot of people. The co-chairs of that committee get a lot of recognition, but Amy Yoder and Mark Pachelik have done an outstanding job. Lots of curves thrown at us. We had identified a couple places for our pool testing. One of them was going to be the DMV location, and then now the county is going to have the rapid test site, so we have to change up. I suspect there's a lot of extra costs with the pool testing. We have to send all the test results to SUNY Upstate, and I suspect at some point in time that we'll be required to start doing wastewater testing. Wastewater testing is really being directed at those SUNY institutions that have student housing as well as athletic teams as cohorts. But I have a feeling as more test results come back affirmatively, that we may be directed in that direction. A couple of quick meetings. The chair facilitated a meeting with the Assembly Majority Leader, Crystal Peoples, and 2 of our staff members. She's interested in the initiatives the college is looking at in the diversity arena, as well as some of our demographics and data from our past results. And she certainly expressed some concern about our success in meeting underrepresented student populations, and we know we have a long way to go. And as you heard during the presentation with Northland, there are things we can do. Trina's efforts with EOP, Meta-Merit, and Middle Early College will certainly assist us. I've had meetings with Damon College and Medaille College, the presidents, to look at some articulation agreements. We attended a media event with the Lieutenant Governor, Kathy Hochul, at Northland to talk about some of the services that Northland was going to be providing our students. Thank you, Glenn, for attending that. Mentioned I'm trying to have a monthly meeting with SUNY trustee Eunice Lewin, and she's really helping me keep focused and letting me know the concerns of the community as well as SUNY. She is a good friend to this institution. We've been meeting executive committee of the business offices with the executive committee of the community college presidents on looking at shared services initiatives. And there was talks about how to fund community colleges. That's not going to happen. I know there's discussion about, combining campuses. That is not discussion coming out of the SUNY community college presidents, but, we're only at a certain level. What SUNY drives us to may be vastly different, but right now we're looking more at ways we can save costs through shared services. I've had multiple discussions with the foundation chair of the board, Mark Golland. He is very interested in ways to engage the community around North Campus to help us fund a beautification project. And with that, he is opening up to some of the business community out there to initiate something. He had a call recently with some of the business community as well as the Amherst Town Supervisor, who's also very interested in helping SUNY Erie at North Campus to improve its footprint. We do have some capital projects, but those capital projects really don't talk about the exterior, what the campus looks like, because that first impression is so important. And if you go to North Campus, the first impression is not great. The Amherst Town Supervisor actually will be attending the STEM dedication tomorrow. I reached out to him and he was very enthusiastic about coming. Dean Smith and I met with Councilmember Wingo, again, talking about what we can do east side of Buffalo and some of our diversity initiatives. And if you've not had a chance to talk to Councilman Wingo, who's also a minister. He is, he's amazing. And he's actually an adjunct faculty member for us at South Campus. And hopefully we can have him teach more classes, because he is certainly a breath of fresh air. I had a meeting with LMHF along with the union leadership, as well as Tracy Cleveland and Sacco and Maureen Fitzpatrick Doyle were on the call, and that was to look at our performance and to look at our rates for health insurance effective January 1st. And it was a good meeting. We were able to lower our rates that we'll charge to our employees as far as percent of increase that we anticipated. And a large reason why we're able to lower that increase to a more manageable number was through the early retirement incentive. We're moving higher health insurance employees that are not on the Medicare plan into a Medicare plan, which is a more affordable plan. So I believe 24 individuals that recently participated in that early retirement incentive moved into a Medicare plan. And then I met with our auditors, Drescher Malecki, talking about our prior audits and talked about some concerns they had expressed, certainly in a couple of areas that the board is sensitive to, and then talking about planning for next year. And then somebody mentioned we have a board retreat October 23rd. It's all day in North Campus. And then I invited each and every one of you to the STEM dedication, and not sure if it's Mike's idea, Paula's idea, or somebody else's, but it's a great idea. Without naming rights secured, we are actually dedicating the building to the STEM workers and students in our community that are committed to the safety and advancement of our community. So it's a great recognition of everyone that's serving during this pandemic and what they've done to the community. Trustees, that concludes my comments as far as the interim president's report.
Bill, when you were talking about the voting, assisting students, so that made me think about the census, and the census is done as of September 30th. I think it would be useful for us to push out an email message with a link to how our students and our faculty can submit their form to the census, because it's just so critical. And the time element, it's right now is the 11th hour. So I would urge that we do that.
If we have not done it yet, I don't know the answer to that, but if we have not done it, we certainly will. And even if we did it, it's a good reminder. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Albert, you've already pretty much given a report. I don't know if you wanted to say anything else.
No, thank you.
Thanks, Albert. Okay, we're going to move on to the College Senate report. Colleen Quinn is with us. Colleen, the floor is yours.
Hi, good morning, everybody. It's great to see everyone. So we had our first Senate meeting, and we always start with how it's a very anxious period of time during the school year, because we haven't started yet. We're watching our students and all of that good stuff, but we just hit the 3rd week mark, and our NAs are going to be due for the rosters by tomorrow, and we're all kind of picking up steam now with our courses and establishing our protocols with our students. So it's been very interesting. The Senate announced that we had a Chancellor's Award winner. Mary Jo Graham is an adjunct at South Campus for physics, and she won the Chancellor Award for adjunct outstanding teaching. She's been with us since 2013. And so Mary Jo's been the only Chancellor Award winner for a long time. So with working with Bill and Tracy Cleveland, we're going to be setting up a committee so that we can make sure that we are recognizing appropriate faculty and staff and administrators, administrative assistants, all the different categories more effectively, and make sure that we show our how we shine. And then with the elections, I know Bill mentioned SGA elections, and I know Patrina's on the call. But so 3 of the people that are elected are going to be the campus presidents. So I'd like to extend any help I can help you guys with, because they are voting senators. And I know that sometimes they have questions and things like that. So just give me a call. I'm available to talk with them or even present what their role is with the college senate, because it's very important part of their job. So I'm happy to do that. And then, so Trustee Mazziello, we've talked about the student expectations, the student bill of rights policy. So I rallied the troops. We got everybody up and running, and I think it's sounding like it's going to be the task force on student expectations. We're going to be meeting sometime before the next board meeting and try to get those things up and running. We're looking to adapt the current online Bill of Rights, which is available, and you guys passed it, so everyone's seen it. So it's going to have a reciprocal relationship between students and faculty as far as what both sides can expect in the seated classroom. So it's not just the online classroom. And I'm trying to think what else. We have a Faculty Council of Community Colleges event coming up. So we're going to have some things to report on that in the next meeting. And then we also had a presentation from our applied learning group, and all the different things that we can do for our students, how to get applied learning opportunities approved, how to make sure we engage our students and extend applied learning opportunities across the 3 campuses for our students. So it's been a really exciting start of the year, despite all the numbers and the money thing. But
Okay. The money
so
thing.
thank you.
Okay, Colleen, thanks so much. So I know we're heading to executive session shortly. Is there any other old business that anybody has? Any new business? If not, then I'll entertain a motion to go into executive session.
I'll make the motion.
Okay, motion made. Can I hear a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we will go into executive session, and we'll come back as soon as we can. And then we'll wrap it up.
This has been fun, Len. I haven't been at my prom night.
The scenery hasn't changed. You're just staying in one place that long in a car. You should be doing something, getting somewhere.
Hey, Bill, is tomorrow's ceremony at the STEM building, is that going to be in the atrium or where's that going to be?
Outside.
Yes, it's going to be at 10 a.m. tomorrow.
Outside or inside?
Inside, right? Oh, wait, Bob's shaking his head.
It'd be outside.
It's going to be outside.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
We talked about inside, weather dependent, but the weather is supposed to be nice tomorrow. I've invited, obviously, this board as well as the foundation board. Reach out to some of the business community in Amherst, and as I mentioned, I believe the supervisor from Amherst will be attending as well. So I
Great.
appreciate everyone that can make it tomorrow.
Very good.
So we had a motion to come out of executive session that was seconded by Todd and approved by everybody. And I wanted to report that in executive session, we discussed employment updates, contract negotiations, and pending litigation. No action was taken.
Okay, so we're out of executive session. Kate's given a report. There's no other business before us. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion made, seconded by Trustee Stone. All those in favor say aye.
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 Thank you again, Len, for all your wonderful leadership in getting
thanks,
us
Len.
through these difficult times. And we're delighted you're still going to be part of the team.
Yes.
Thanks.
And Albert, good luck to you.
Albert,
Appreciate all you did.
Oh, thank you again, and I'll try to put my MPA to good use, like Kate.
That's kind of you.
Take care, everyone.
Drop us a line.
Bye.
Tell us how you're doing.